Started. Yeah, beautiful. Alrighty, well, hello and welcome. This is a really exciting event for us to be hosting, and hopefully it's one of many to come as well. We have the joy of having Bruce from Matterport joining us, along with our panelists from Captured and Scanned, many faces that you may have been speaking to previously. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Stephen and I'm one of the co-founders at Foria. We've been working with the Matterport technology for over 6 years now. Back in 2014, we bought our first Matterport camera and created a business here in Australia. And for the last 4 years, we've been the distributor for the Matterport technology. And I'm sure a lot of you would have been speaking with myself, Wade and Amy during this process, where you may have purchased a lot of your cameras. We were actually planning on running this event back in March when Bruce was over here in Australia. Obviously, the world didn't allow that to happen, but I think it's actually probably worked out for the best in the fact that we probably were only going to be able to go to a couple cities. This way, we're able to reach everyone in Australia and New Zealand. And so hopefully it kind of sets the mark for something that we can continue to do moving forward as well. I'd like to introduce our panelists to get things started. So first of all, we have Bruce Wells from Matterport. He's the Managing Director for APAC. We also have Alex Hitchcock. He's the Senior Account Manager for Captured. And then Amy and Wade, hopefully this puts a face to a name for a lot of you that have probably been speaking to them via emails and phone calls for the past couple of years. And finally, we've got Dean, another co-founder here at Foria, who will be helping us curate the event today. Just really quickly with the agenda, we're going to have a lot of time for Q&A. I think it's going to be really important to have some space, to have some discussions, and to answer a lot of questions that I know the community have here in Australia and New Zealand. But to begin with, we'll hand it over to Bruce to give a quick presentation, and then followed that by Alex to talk a little bit about Captured. And then for the bulk of the time, we really want to start having a conversation with you guys and understanding what your questions are. A bit of housekeeping on Zoom to get things started. Firstly, this is our first webinar, so bear with us if anything does go wrong, but I'm sure it will be fine. Kind of like that waiting screen at the start. But at any point, if you do have any questions, there's a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. You'll see it there. Please feel free to put your question into that section. We have a team looking at these questions and we'll try and get to as many of them as possible at the end of the Q&A. And yeah, that was about it, to be honest. If we do see a lot of questions as well, and it starts piling up, we'll create a poll to begin with, and then we can figure out which questions are most important to you guys, but we will try and get through all of it today. And again, yeah, let's be mindful for today's session. We'd love to keep doing these more regularly into the future. And so we'll see how productive and beneficial it is to everyone involved. But without further ado, I would like to pass it over to Bruce to get started. Bruce joined Matterport in December last year and has been met with the craziness that has unfolded so far this year. I've been working closely with Bruce over the last couple of months, and it's been great to have a dedicated team now located in APAC, which is designed to help all of us. But without further ado, I'll pass across to Bruce to get going. Great. Thanks, Stephen. Just a quick sound check because I switched to my hands-free. Is that working okay? Coming through loud and clear. All right, fantastic. All right, so I've got a short deck that I'm gonna go through, but I guess before I get into that, just a couple like shout outs to thanks for folks who submitted some questions in advance. I've got a few slides to kind of talk about some of the things that are going on in APAC. As Stephen alluded to, I joined the company about 6 months ago to head up our growth and strategy for Asia Pacific, so I'll share a bit about that. I also want to talk about a few things that are in the kind of strategy framework for Matterport to give you a little bit more insight into some of the things that are happening now and what you'll continue to see. And what I'm hoping to do also is, given the questions that came in advance of this webinar, is I'll try to answer some of those in the context of both the strategy and these strategic elements for our business. But then, of course, things that I don't cover or that we need to take into the Q&A, we'll do so accordingly. All right, so without further ado, I'm going to share my screen. And all right, Wade, give me a thumbs up. You can see my screen. Fantastic. All right. So that's me. So what I wanted to talk a little bit about today is the APAC strategy. I'm going to share a bit more about one of our key strategy areas is around capture ubiquity. And this is about the fact that, as many of you may know,
when Matterport first launched, and many of you know it better than even I do, it was very much tied to our own camera. Since then, we've expanded the capture devices that are available, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. And then the last one is a bit more about Matterport as a platform or as a service, and what we're doing in terms of opening up the ecosystem to allow additional innovation on top of Matterport. So if I start with a strategy, I think the first thing is I should talk about the global strategy and then how APAC would fit into this. So many of you may have seen this in the past. It's part of our kind of standard talk track and a lot of our decks. You know, if I think about our mission, it's to realize the full potential of the built world. And the way we look at that is that there is an enormous untapped opportunity for this ecosystem to share in terms of developing digital twins of the built world. Although there are not great information about the number of buildings that exist in the world, you know, our best estimate is that we are talking north of 4 billion buildings that are in the world. It is by clear the largest asset class if you took all of the combined value of those buildings. How many spaces does that kind of equate to? You know, again, kind of extrapolating from that, easily 20 billion spaces that are out there that have the potential to be digitized and create digital twins. If you look into kind of the great innovations that have taken place over time, you know, look at Google Maps as an example. You know, if we go back not that far, if you go back 20 or 30 years ago, we were all using paper maps. Then it went, to where we have today, obviously with not only Google Maps, but the fact that that opened up an entire ecosystem of development on top of it. So there's an enormous opportunity when we think about the digitization of the built world. And the fact that I don't know what the percentage of digital twins that exist out there, but it's certainly 0.0 and some other zeros before you get to the number in terms of the number of digital twins that are actually out there, and what this means in terms of this untapped opportunity for everybody in this kind of broader ecosystem. Some of you may have seen this in the past, and the reason I wanted to bring this up is that many of you have a relationship with Matterport within a particular industry vertical. So if you're in real estate, you're looking at it in terms of the promote space. So using this as part of your digital marketing engine to help promote properties that are either for rent or for sale. But there's a broad ecosystem of Matterport users, and that ecosystem is growing every day. And we've defined it in these kind of 6 major categories. And it really, as you can see, it extends across the entire life cycle of a building. So we have a lot of growing use of Matterport in the kind of design and build phase. So this is looking at the architects, engineers, and construction companies that are using digital twins to support their a wide variety of use cases in that design build ecosystem. Promote, which is where obviously the company started and what most of you are probably familiar with, the digital marketing space. The other one is operate. So operate, whether it be in facilities management or even property management, but leveraging a digital twin to provide a wealth of additional capabilities and strengths to support a more efficient and effective way of managing the built properties. And then the last 2 are kind of linked together. An area that we've seen incredible growth over the last year in particular is in the insurance and restoration or repair side, both in terms of the underwriting of the physical assets. So if I go back to that previous slide, the fact that there is 4 billion buildings out there, those that are insured, the documentation that sits behind it is still, let's just say there aren't the digital twins that sit there. It's a lot of it is paper-based or extrapolated from other resources. But there's an opportunity, great opportunity that we're seeing growing in terms of using this in the insure space, and then certainly in terms of claims management, restoration, and repair. If I then turn my attention to what does this mean for APAC? Well, not surprisingly, there is an enormous amount of opportunity that exists in APAC. I've highlighted this kind of through the GDP lens, because the GDP lens is often a good reflection of what that means in terms of built space, infrastructure, buildings and properties that have an opportunity for digital twins. And as I think many of us are aware of, if we take Asia, we have 3 of the top 5 markets in terms of GDP in Asia Pacific. When you extend that out to the top 15 countries of the world in terms of GDP, Australia and South Korea come into that fold as well. and Indonesia. So we have 6 of the top 15 countries that are represented in Asia Pacific. And that represents, that's from the GDP perspective. If we overlaid on this population and equating population to buildings, there is an enormous opportunity linking back to the global strategy for growth in Asia Pacific. And I'll share a bit more about what that means for us and the way in which we look to conquer this exciting area. The first thing I want to do is just share a little bit about what's going on right now. So as Stephen mentioned, I've been with the company for 6 months, so I bet the vast majority of you all on the call know probably more about Matterport. You've certainly been using it longer than I have. And it's probably worth recognizing that Matterport does already have a presence in APAC. So let's not think of this as a new initiative for Matterport, but rather a revised focus on how to do more in a region that we've already got a great foundation. You can see on the left, and this is actually the Pro 2 camera account. So it's not accounts. This is just looking at the Pro 2 camera count. And you can see that, especially behind Australia and New Zealand, where over 50% of our business currently is in Australia and New Zealand. The next big chunk of that would be Japan, followed by Greater China, so China and Hong Kong. And then, surprisingly, when I looked into this, I went, well, where else? This other column, which represents about 10% of our Pro 2 sales, is a long list of countries and growing as well. So I reference this only in the sense that Matterport knows that we're already in Asia, but now it's about how do we do more and how do we do it effectively to take advantage of the opportunity, but also how do we best support our existing ecosystem of partners and users and customers as well. The other thing I want to highlight on the top right is a little bit about what's been going on since I joined, and I probably can't point to this and saying it's because of great leadership that we've seen this hyper growth. I think we all know that in addition to that, we've been struck with COVID-19, and as a result of that, demand for digital twins, demand for virtual tours has skyrocketed across that whole ecosystem of building building ecosystem. So not just in the promote space, but also build, design, etc. And just some of the numbers, as you can see here, new accounts are up. At the end of May, we had 12 times more new accounts coming in than we had in January. That's equating to 5 times more spaces we saw in February. And then last night, I thought, well, let me see if I can get one more bullet point in here. And I noticed that June, as of yesterday, so we're just past halfway through the month, we're already ahead of every metric that I was looking at for May. So that this trend is not slowing down, that's for sure. Lastly, in terms of what do we currently have in place in terms of APAC, there are 3 of us. So I joined in March. David came on board. I'm sorry, I joined in December. David came on board in March to help with our value-added reseller network, working with Foria as an example. So he's been helping me as we expand our ecosystem of resellers and value-added partners. And Melissa, who joined us just the start of the month, to help us along the lines of our sales and help us in the growth and supporting customer needs in the region. So what are we doing? So oops, sorry, I went the wrong way. So what does our APAC strategy look like? As you know, you can't look at Asia Pacific in a singular. There's such diversity across multiple dimensions, and so we have to break up our strategy and look at it into kind of key chunks. And each of these areas has different needs, and our approach is going to be different as well. Certainly not enough time on this call today to go into that in great detail. So instead, I'm just going to highlight kind of 4 key pillars of our strategy. But keep in mind that it's not a universal, all of this is going to apply to all of these different subsections or sub areas of the Asia Pacific. But one of the key components of this is about our value-added reseller. So it's great to be on this call with Foria today. They are certainly the shining example of a value-added reseller for us in the region. Their time in working with us is certainly come through in helping us and helping me in my learning curve as well. And so thank you to the team for that support. And we're going to look to do more together. We're also looking to expand our ecosystem. So the little blue dots that you see there, that's where we have existing resellers. And when we do our next update and keep you guys posted, you're hopefully going to see a lot more of those dots expand across the geographies that you see in front of you. One of the other areas for us, if we look at the ASEAN markets in particular, and maybe ASEAN ex Singapore, is that there is an enormous opportunity to enable a large portion of the population with Matterport, but perhaps not leading with the Pro 2. And so we're going to see more focus in that subsegment, is putting more focus into this 360s and how we're going to drive adoption, especially early adoption in the use of some of the 360 cameras that are currently compatible, and hopefully more in the future. The next one is enterprise. So as as Matterport is kind of grown globally and our value proposition is getting more baked into the daily operating rhythms of various companies, we've recognized that larger and larger organizations are coming to Matterport to look to do more here, either at a global scale or looking to do more through enhanced functionality and capabilities. So in aligned to that demand, and this is the the top 500 companies of the world or top 1,000, helping them in a more focused way, and that focused way is both in terms of support, but also in terms of the way in which we're going to do some added functionality to support these enterprise accounts. And the great thing about this is just going to raise the overall kind of maturity of the business. It's going to raise a lot of the kind of elements that are have opportunities for us to drive greater improvement, because in order to best support these enterprise clients, we have to do a lot of get the foundation even more rock solid. The next one is about captured services. I think some of you have already heard about this. It's a strategy that got launched in the US and in Europe. I don't have that yet kind of locked down to how we're going to roll this out in APAC, but I didn't want to kind of just avoid talking about it. So I don't have much detail to share at this stage. It is part of our growth, and it's tied to that enterprise element. This is where the captured services business is about supporting. The primary focus has been about supporting some of our global accounts in a more aligned and focused way. And so maybe on our next session and update, we'll have a lot more to talk about in this section, because again, it's going to be another key component of our growth across the region. The other element about this that I know came up in some of the pre-questions was around support. So a couple things that we have in place now. We're in the active process of adding more to our team of 3. So hopefully we'll be a team of 9 by the end of maybe July or August. In addition to that, and this is the one I want to just talk a little bit more about, is support. So I think everybody is aware that currently our support function is based out of the UK and the US. And as a result of that, the time zone overlap has not been great for you all, and it's certainly not for the region. We are addressing that. We're addressing that as we speak now. We are in the process of expanding our support function to provide, and to start with level 1 support, which would be across a broader set of APAC time zones. As you can recognize, if we take Auckland to Mumbai, there are, I'm going to get it wrong, but I'm going to guess there's probably 5.5 hour difference, probably even greater than that. And as a result, the focus here is not going to be going to 24/7, but the starting point is going to be enhancing this with certainly a lot more coverage in the hours that are our normal business hours. So a lot more to come on that. That is in motion right now. But I wanted to add something to this, is that we know that given the growth, what's happened with COVID-19 and other factors, support is under an enormous amount of pressure right now. And it's not going to get fixed overnight, to be just directed very honestly with you. We are taking immediate action in terms of enhancing the team, expanding that team in the short term to get over this kind of a challenge that we're faced with now. But in parallel to that, put something that's going to be much more sustainable and that will grow over time. And again, we're not measuring this in quarters or years, maybe months, but actually it's really down now in weeks in terms of how we're going to be addressing this, in terms of coverage, in terms of language. And probably the one that I'm most excited about is tiered support. Like right now, you make a request for a password change and you make a request for stitching, it all falls into the same queue. We need to introduce, and we're building out a more mature structure for us to be able to handle support in a way that you would align to an enterprise organization. So that's all going to happen. I know chat has gone away, and the question is that going to come back? It will be coming back. I don't have a timeline for that, but again, this is measured in weeks, not in months. And you can imagine all this is kind of tied together. All right, I'm going to pause for a minute on the APAC strategy and then talk a little bit about Capture Ubiquity and the Matterport platform overview, or really what we call Matterport as a service. So just a little bit about Capture Ubiquity. As I mentioned early on, and for many of you who maybe have engaged with Matterport going back a couple years ago, you'll know that our focus was around the initial Pro camera, the Pro 3D, and then after that, the Pro 2. And since then, we have expanded to increase the number of capture devices. And the way we look at this is it's not about creating competition between these. It's that each type of camera type has a different use case. So whether it be the VLK360 at the high end for the engineer and architects who are demanding a higher density point cloud and a higher level of dimensional accuracy, we have the Leica VLK360. The 360 cameras coming in at a much different price point. And for any of those who've used it, you'll get a good output, but obviously the megapixels are very different. You got 134 megapixel with the Pro 2, and with the 360s, you're between 13 and 20 megapixel depending on the device. You're using a different type of technology for the dimensional accuracy or dimensional data. You're using photogrammy versus using the point cloud that's captured with the Pro 2. And as a result of that, you've got some dimensional accuracy differences. And then as you probably saw, well, as most of you may have saw in May, we launched the iPhone. Again, it's for a lot of our customers, this is an opportunity to try it out. If you've got one property that you want to put up on Airbnb, what surprised me actually is we've heard a lot of larger companies coming back that are using the Pro 2. Like I'll give you an example of an engineering company that's been using the Pro 2 as part of their BIM documentation. And they're saying, oh, it's great having the iPhone because when I'm on site and I'm not planning to do a scan, but I see something in the build that I want to capture and share with my colleagues, I've got my iPhone and I can take 1 or 2 scans and capture that and share that. So a little bit surprising was that the iPhone is not about just addressing that long tail, but it's actually complementing owners of other capture devices in here as well. Last thing I just want to mention on this, actually 2 more things. So one question that came up and it's on people's minds is there going to be a new Matterport camera, whatever we're going to call it, Pro 3 or the 3rd gen or whatever. Look, we are a development and R&D company. We're constantly innovating and creating new functionality and capabilities. We do have a team that are looking at hardware. Will there be a next generation camera in the future? Absolutely. Is that planned in the near term? No, it's not. Certainly nothing in this calendar year. Will we see it next year? Possibly. Again, we don't have a definitive timeline. And unfortunately, due to the COVID-19 situation, our hardware engineers are no longer able to be in the lab in our office working. And that's obviously going to have an impact on the timeline for a next-gen camera. The other thing was Android. Get this question a lot. Is Android coming out? And I'm pleased to say, and some of you may be aware of this, that we are in public beta for the Android. And keep in mind, this is Android devices to connect to a camera, not to capture the space itself. So this is connecting to one of the cameras you can see there, the Pro 2 or one of the 360 cameras. Don't have a definitive timeline on this, but we are in the public beta now. I'm hoping this is certainly going to be something launched in 2020. Well, touch wood. There's a lot of demand for this, and I'm very anxious for that. If you're interested, if you have a Android device and you're interested in this, and you're existing customer, you can go on, just type in Matterport beta, and you'll get to our beta website, and you can look at the requirements for joining that beta. And there's other betas that are also available in there. And we can talk more about that later on if needed. All right, the last thing, just being mindful of time, the last thing I wanted to talk about was a little bit about the Matterport as a platform. And this is one of our an exciting new development for Matterport. If I go back to the strategy I mentioned before about the Google Maps as as an example. Or if you look at Apple, you look at any kind of major tech company, even Salesforce.com, et cetera, a lot of them aren't about creating every feature and function themselves, but instead creating a platform, opening up that ecosystem to support innovation and development on top of it. And a priority this year has been about opening our platform to give customers direct access to our core technology that has powered our systems for years. And with our Matterport as a Service initiative, we aim to open up this ecosystem with partners and customers that combine their systems with our 3D visualization tools. This is an opportunity to create industry-specific solutions to enhance the end experience. Matterport cannot create all feature functionality that's required for every use case across that entire building lifecycle. And so we really see this as a key part of accelerating the value for the end user. So many of you may be aware, at the end of last year, we released our first set of the API and SDK. And this is allowing customers, and I know some of you have already reached out to us and already starting to play with that, with the SDK. And this is exciting. So we've seen an increase in this kind of dynamic factory of design tools and inserting 3D objects and inserting IoT device dynamic content into their Matterport models. And so there's a lot going on in this space here. And I've just quickly showing you just some examples of that. So on the left side, you can see how using the Object Insertion SDK, the ability to be able to insert objects directly into a model. The top right, you can see here where we're taking dynamic data. So this could be IoT devices or other types of dynamic data from a factory or from whatever it may be, and integrating that and overlaying that onto the Matterport model. I wish I would have done this one as a video, because actually as you walk through the space, that visual that you can see here in the 2D image is actually overlaid onto the 3D. So you can see all of that as you walk through in terms of the virtual tour. The bottom one is an example of a customer or a company in Poland that's developing an overlay on top of Matterport for the architecture and engineering business, basically be able to create some better ways of integrating and the Revit or the build plan versus the as-built, and some of the collaboration around that. So that's my last slide. I hope that gives everybody a brief or kind of introduction and covers most of the some of those questions that were asked in the lead up to this.
Fantastic. Thanks, Bruce. That was amazing. There was some really awesome ideas in that last slide there. So I wouldn't be doing my job properly if I didn't let you all know that we've got an end of financial year sale on the Matterport cameras at the moment. If you are interested, there's a pretty good discount on. Contact Wade or Amy, or send an email through to matterport@scan.com.au. We'll be able to help you out there. For those of you who may have joined halfway through or just as that was going, feel free to add your questions to the Q&A section. It's just the button down the bottom, and we'll be jumping into Q&A in a moment after Alex's quick talk. So there's a few things going through there. We will get to as many as we possibly can. So feel free to just start adding questions in there if anything does pop up. Now, well, firstly, thanks, Bruce. Really appreciated that. And really hoping we can do some more of this as well, because there's some amazing insights there. Even us as a reseller, just having that information is really, really valuable. So thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Passing it along to Alex now. So Alex Hitchcock is the Senior Account Manager for Captured. As Bruce was mentioning, there's a lot of tools and opportunities within the Matterport ecosystem to expand on what's possible through or after you create a Matterport tour, and Captured is one of those tool sets. So I'm going to pass it along to Alex to give us a quick overview.
Thanks a lot, Steve. And thanks a lot, Bruce. That was really insightful, really interesting. So thanks for taking us through that. I'll share my screen with you guys. Bear with me 1 second. Cool. So as Steve mentioned, my name's Alex. I'm the account manager for the Captured platform. So I'll spend the next few minutes just taking you through some features and services that we offer. In a nutshell, Captured is an all-in-one content management system that's been specifically built and designed for Matterport hardware and that ecosystem. So we offer a range of features and services, essentially to add value to your existing Matterport tours. So some of those are listed on this slide, and I'll go into them in a little bit more detail further down the presentation. But we don't only add additional features and content and value onto your Matterport tours, but we can also save you guys a bunch of time in post-production with the services that you can see on this slide. So essentially meaning that whatever you want to pick and choose for your Matterport orders, all you have to do is really go to the property or project that you want to scan, upload it to Matterport, and then come back onto Captured in 12 to 24 hours, and everything will be waiting for you there, ready to be delivered onto your clients. So we'll jump into the virtual tour overlay feature. So these are some of the forward-facing features that Captured can apply to your Matterport tours to enhance them. So firstly, we provide vanity URLs, so branded vanity URLs. So we remove Matterport from the URLs and then integrate your company name branding within there, as well as property addresses if you wish, and your clients that you're servicing as well. We also offer some in-tour branding. So as you can see in the top right corner of that image there, we can integrate either yours or your client's branding within the tour itself as an overlay, as well as video overlay. So you can integrate YouTube videos, Vimeo URLs, or upload files from your computers, whether that be drone footage or whatever you want to integrate into there. Another feature is our lead generation tool. So within the specific example of real estate, you can integrate agent headshot, details such as phone number and email, and they can be contacted from directly within the tour to either arrange a viewing in person or find out more information about this particular space. We also offer a navigation menu as well that allows you to integrate multiple tours onto the same branded interface and within that same URL as well. So just going on to the next slide. Another thing that we offer is our one-page website. So this essentially hosts all of the content required to market a property on one easy to read, easy to share web page. So the virtual tour itself with all those same features, overlay features that I went through with you previously, floor plans with site plans, Google Maps, property descriptions, photos, whether that be from the Matterport hardware or whether it's DSLR photos or even iPhone photos, and video integration as well. So you have everything kind of on one holistic page for easy sharing. Analytics is another feature that's very popular with our clients. So this can be most viewed links, how many unique users have used the tour, and then the average time spent viewing the tour as well. We can also provide a heat map as well of analytics. Each dot, sorry, that image is a little bit small, but each dot represents a 360 scan or sweep of that property, and then they're color coded to give you the most viewed and least viewed areas of the property. So all of these analytics can be sent out in way of an automated scheduled report as well. So we offer that tool to our clients, so you don't have to worry about manually sending these out all the time. You can essentially set a specific reporting date range that you want to set, and then send that out automatically to your clients from there. Post-production services. So as I'm sure most of you know, there's a couple of ways that you can curate your Matterport tours, either with a highlight reel of still images that you can skip through, which is shown at the bottom image there, and then also that video style walkthrough. So we can take care of all of that for you. Just select what you want when you book in a model, and we can either provide that highlight reel creation or the walkthrough. We can set custom notes on the back end of your account. Obviously, every user is different and wants different things, so we can curate that exactly to your liking as well from there. Another really popular feature we offer is photo retouching. So we offer a range of photo retouching requests, I guess. So day to dusk enhancement, sky, grass enhancement, object removal, reflection removal, pretty much any enhancement that you guys want. It's very, very cost effective, $1.50 per photo. And it's kind of, I guess, bridging that gap between the quality of the Matterport cameras and then professional DSLR photography. So you can get all these still images as marketable as possible to then feed out to your clients as well. Content delivery is another feature we offer. So we offer a branded email template that you can send out to your send all the content out to your customers really professionally and efficiently as well. So with a click of a button, enter the email addresses you want to send them out to, and we'll curate that branded email to be sent out with that one click as well. So it saves a lot of time rather than having to upload and download from different platforms. It's all in one place and ready to be sent out from there. So that was kind of the features and services that we offer for specific properties, but we do also have some really awesome features in the back end of the system as well. So one of them being an embeddable booking system. So set the services and features that you offer as a business yourselves. It doesn't necessarily have to be Matterport or Captured related. It could be drone services, still photography services. Set your pricing, your serviceable working area, sync that with your business calendar. And then you can use an embeddable URL to integrate onto your own website so that customers can easily and efficiently book in services that they want with you that you can then confirm via email as well. So making that a lot easier and efficient as well. Another feature we offer is a branded client portal. So this can be a great way of allowing your clients to access their content from a portal. So we can white label the Captured platform with your branding, and then you can then provide your clients an individual login to access their content only from that portal. So you can assign as many different clients as you have with different logins, and they can then go in and access their content only. Thanks a lot. One other thing that I think I missed previously is our floor plans, which is another really popular feature that we offer. Completely custom color designs delivered in 12 to 24 hours. We also include site plans in there as well. So for the site plans, we can integrate the 360 views that you're taking of the exterior of the property, as well as combining that with Google satellite imagery to get those as accurate as possible. As you can see here, we offer both 2D and 3D designs. You can save a number of templates in the back end of your account, so that they can be easily accessed from a drop-down menu when you're making an order, again, to make that efficient as possible. But that's a really popular feature of ours. They're 25 Australian dollars delivered in 12 to 24 hours. So I think that's it. That's the only one I missed. So thanks very much. Here's my contact details. If you want to give me a call or drop me an email, more than happy to take you through a demo of the platform whenever suits you. And thanks a lot for your time, and back to you guys.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Alex. Really appreciate it. There's also some exciting news. We won't go too much into it now, but we're soon, in the next couple of months, going to be releasing an AR tool. And so you may have all seen that video that circulated a couple of years ago around the AR open house. We've been building the infrastructure for that in the background for the last few years, and are super excited to announce that it will be coming very, very soon. There is some information on our website, so CAPTUR3D, if you want to see any more about the AR digital twins. But yeah, thanks again, Alex. Alrighty, turning our attention across to the Q&A. There's a few questions starting to come on in, but if you have any more, please feel free to drop them in there. The team's all reviewing them and get back to you either here or in text. There's a good question here from Lindsay, I guess, to begin with. And Bruce, this may be before your time, but there was a trial at one upon a time in the US with Airbnb. Do you know if there's anything further happening in that space at the moment?
So the only thing I do know, we're having conversations with Airbnb. There is a desire on their side to do more integration, but I don't have anything more than that. I take it from Lindsay's question that there was discussions about making it part of their kind of portal interface. I can only assume that, given the conversations we are having, that is still on the in the plans, but I don't have any more information on that. Obviously, their business has been impacted significantly due to what's happened with COVID-19. So I don't know where it sits in the priority list.
Yeah, that's completely understandable. To build a little bit more on that as well, when this first went around, Airbnb's point of view on the situation was it needs to be ubiquitous globally. They want to be able to offer services to all of their customers equally. And at that point in time, this was probably 3 years ago, potentially, the coverage of Matterport back then wasn't as vast as it is now. So I think as the community grows globally, it's going to be in a stronger position to allow for something like this to be switched on. And yeah, it would be a system where you'd be able to scan. And I'd imagine, hopefully, it would end up being like Google Street View, where it would be in the back end of Matterport that you can click and then push it through to Airbnb. But it's definitely an exciting opportunity, and hopefully it's still coming ahead. There's another question here. We'll jump across maybe to the sales team really quickly to talk about the plans. There's just a question here about the monthly service fee. Amy or Wade, did you want to cover this quickly for Andrew?
Yeah, sure. I was actually just typing a response to that. I wasn't sure if Wade was going to answer it there. Yeah, I mean, I suppose the answer to that question is simply that it is a flat fee for that particular subscription. As it stands at the moment, there are no processing fees. Otherwise, that would, of course, remove the processing fees if you weren't uploading any new ones. Yeah, sorry, I'm not really sure what more to say to that one. It's a difficult question that I wish I could give more insight in.
Yeah, beautiful. I think that answers it pretty well. It's just the subscription fee each month at the basic level. So even if you don't create anything, it's still going to be there to allow you to host, manage and display all your properties on your active spaces. Yeah, and then the 360-degree file. Yeah, you can download each of those individually and utilize. So thank you for that one, Amy and Andrew. There's a couple questions down here around the Matterport captured services. So Bruce did jump on this a little bit within the presentation. The internal name that they're using now, correct me if I'm wrong, Bruce, is captured services. And so it may have changed a couple different times or iterations from the MSP program and what it is now and today. I think you covered it pretty well in the fact that there wasn't too much that we can provide, but was there anything else you wanted to add to those questions?
No, I mean, everybody's aware that we stopped signing up new folks into the MSP program. A variety of reasons around that, most of it stemming from the US. At this stage, there isn't a plan to increase the MSP database. Although, you know, if you still go onto the website, you can still put in Find a Pro. I mean, we're constantly, especially given what's going on, we're still pushing a lot of those requests out. The thing I was talking about is with our captured services capability, new program that we're rolling out, again, starting with the enterprise accounts. So it's going to sit alongside, I guess, the MSP program. I think the thing is, it's still in its nascent stage. In APAC, it's non-existent. So I think what we should do is keep this as an agenda item that we talk about in upcoming sessions. I apologize, we don't have more to say. It's just that we're still trying to figure out what this is going to look like in Asia Pacific.
Yeah, beautiful. Hopefully that clears up some information for those of you. I guess Fiona and Scott, the two individuals that did ask, I'm assuming it's just more about information more than anything. And whilst I wish there was like a complete concrete plan that we could provide, at the moment there just isn't something in place. But we will be able to provide you updates if anything does come to the forefront in the near future. And hopefully we can run another session like this to speak openly and honestly with all of you as well. There's a question down here from Bill that I'll quickly take. It's around video files. So obviously, the question asks if you can extract an MP4 from the Matterport from the walkthrough video. Obviously, Matterport provides the snippet videos that are automatically generated through their AI system. At the moment, there is a number of third parties that can provide this service. One of the key ones that we recommend is Mattervids. It's just another third-party service that can provide the extraction of those videos. Alex, was there any other services similar to that you recommend?
Yeah, Mattervids is the main one. Chris Frazier. I've had quite a lot of good feedback from people who have used that service. So Mattervids, I'd say, is the one to go with on that for sure.
Awesome. There's another question in here from Scott, just around the subscriptions and plans, I guess classics versus the newer subscription. For those of you new to Matterport, previously there was a different subscription model in place, and they've recently updated that service to allow for, I guess, no processing fees and hosting limits. And so we try to just rearrange how the process is actually done. But people that did have classic plans in place still have them going on. And I guess this question Bruce, if you did know, is there any information around them removing those, or for as far as you're concerned, are they kind of staying around for a while?
So they're obviously in place now. I can't say that they will be there forever as we move into the active space model, which is what we've had in place now for going on 16 or 17 months. The one thing I know that Scott had mentioned about is if you do want to retain your classic plan, just make sure your credit card details are up to date, because if it does lapse, then we aren't, that program doesn't exist anymore. So then if you need to subscribe or get back onto Matterport, it would be into the active space plans that we have now.
Awesome. Thank you. There was a couple of questions here around support, which I think you covered really well in your presentation, Bruce, around bringing more people on within this time zone and allowing to service that. But this one's more in reliance to things like floor plans. Was there any information on that in that time?
So it's highlighted, a challenge that, as the demand for Matterport shot up, and I alluded to the fact that, like, in APAC, accounts are up 12 times what they were in January. Globally, I don't have the exact number, but I was on a call not too long ago with our exec, and they were talking about the fact that I think in the last 12 months, we've added more customers than we did in the first 10 years or 9 years of the company. And as a result of that, the demand for floor plans and everything else has gone up, and we're using a third-party company to generate those, and they couldn't scale up fast enough. So I think now when you go into mymatterport.com, you'll get a little message saying that it's no longer 12-hour turnaround. We're trying to get back to about 48-hour turnaround. It's getting better, but it's still it's a demand crunch that we're dealing with. And I think, as Alex alluded to, there are alternatives. Obviously, CAPTUR's got a capability of doing floor plans. And I'll make a plug for you guys, and you get more templates for it as well. So there are other ways to get floor plans. If you don't want the click in the Matterport, you can go to CAPTUR to get that. Yeah, and I think about the same price, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Thanks for the plug. I'll pay you later. No, but like Bruce mentioned, I think it's happened across the board with not just our industry, but everyone's industry, where as COVID hit, some industries were hit negatively with no work or very little, and some like ours went exponentially crazy. And it was just a matter of being able to handle the incoming data loads that were not only just processing all the content that was being created, but all the additional services. This obviously does take time. The ability to provide accurate and detailed floor plans back to you, whether it is from Matterport or a third-party service, that process takes time. And so if you start getting 10x the normal orders that you require, there needs to be a process in place to train people. And whilst we would all love it to be automatically provided, these things do take a little bit of time. But I think now that things are starting to go back to what we're calling the new normal, which is about 5 times what it used to be, we're seeing it kind of come back to a little bit of normalcy. There's a question here, Bruce, which again, you did cover in the presentation, but I'll let you talk about it again. It's around virtual furniture, vacant property.
Yeah, thanks, Julie, for that. It's actually, I love answering this question because it's so exciting, and it's a great illustration of what's going to be, what's possible today. But there's some elements in the maturity of pulling all that together to make it kind of a scalable solution. So today, through the SDK, we have a capability to do object insertion. So again, it's not Matterport that's providing a virtual staging capability. We're providing a platform for developers to be able to do object insertions. So if you had a library of 3D objects, it's possible to then, using that SDK, to insert those into a Matterport model. But it's not a plug and play, 3 clicks and away you go. I think as that Matterport platform ecosystem expands, we'll see more and more players that are developing that capability. Certainly there's a lot of demand in the marketplace for it. So I think there's gonna be a lot of exciting things that we'll see coming in, coming in soon.
Yeah, this is, I think, a lot of developing companies that are using the SDK have been looking at this for quite some time to be able to create this sort of content. I've seen some examples from some other companies where, because as Bruce mentioned, it's a 3D object, you can start placing files like BIM or things in there to have overlays and a whole bunch of different interesting spaces that move outside of real estate and into other verticals. And yeah, but it's not as easy as the end product looks. It requires a lot of development, but there will be some services coming out in the near future, I would believe, to help people take care of that as well. There's a question here that we've pretty much answered, but I might tweak it a little bit differently, if you don't mind, Scott. It's around the MSP program, but I guess something that I'm interested in for the Australian New Zealand market. We've talked about obviously customer support, but is there any other forms of support that Matterport would be providing into the region, whether it's through the information or marketing, whatever it may be?
Sorry, can you just ask that question again? Sorry, Stephen.
Just helping the community or ecosystem here in Australia and New Zealand through different support channels. So not so much customer support, just support in general.
Yeah, so one of the things I was talking, we have a new CMO join the company about a month ago or so, Robin Daniels. And one of the things I've been sharing with him is that we need to get more proactive. Well, actually, he knows this as well, so I shouldn't say it's me coming to him. He has a strategy to create much more proactive communication into the ecosystem about the strategy, but also about how to get the best out of Matterport. You know, there's a lot of documentation and content, but sometimes you got to go find your way through to that. And I don't think we've done, there's an opportunity for us to do more proactive communication to everybody to extract greater value. And it's certainly part of, Robin's got some great experience. He used to be with WeWork, and he's worked for some other large organizations. And he's got some really great ideas about how we're going to improve the proactive communication. And one of the, actually, let me just add one more thing into this. One of the other new departments that we've spun up, actually, well, it's just before I joined, so it's probably now about 9 months, is a customer success function. So we have customer support, and now we're going to have customer success. And I think I had it as a bullet point in my slide, but I didn't talk about it when I wanted to support. And customer success is about how do we ensure and help customers, whether they be new customers just coming on or have been with us for a while, but how do you get more support in terms of getting the greatest value from this? And so we're putting together, you know, it can be campaigns around information. Some of it's going to be manual to start with, but the idea is that as our AI engine understands more about what's in models, and I'll just give you an example. So we're looking at, you know, models that get uploaded that don't have, that people forget to use the trim tool or haven't marked windows or mirrors, automatically push content to them about what, how to use it and what that feature means. And so using both the intelligence of of our platform with customer success and be able to create more campaigns to support better adoption and usage and the end result.
Yeah, interesting. I have a follow-on question to that. And I know a lot of people out there will probably, or have asked it in the past, but with that AI technology, would there be a vertical trim possibility, do you think, at some point?
Actually, I haven't heard that discussed, but as somebody, you know, I now scan, you know, 2 or 3 times a week. I'm like, oh, that'd be nice to have. I don't know the answer, but I'll be on your camp of knocking on the door saying it would be nice to have that.
Yeah, thanks. Awesome. Are there any other questions out there? Maybe the panelists, if you guys have anything as well. I know that you guys ask me a lot of questions, which I end up passing on to Bruce usually anyway. Is there anything else out there from any of the attendees?
Happy to just have a quick mention to Bruce and just say thank you for being so forthcoming with your support. Obviously, we've been working with Matterport for so many years, so it's good to have someone who's now having a face to the name, I suppose, around Matterport. So I really appreciate it, and our team does, that you're able to have some timely answers to our customers and be able to be proactive in that space. So big thumbs up from us, guys. To you particularly, Bruce. It's really good that someone like yourself can be presented and customers can, ask you questions and feel like there's a lot more support than what is normally happening previously. So thank you so much for your support.
Absolute pleasure. But I would add to that we're just getting started. You know, we're gonna go up from here. So, but thank you. It's good to know that we're helping. But we got a lot more room to go here.
Fantastic. We've got a couple of things here. Obviously, the webinar looks like it's being picked up nicely. Kim looks like some of the testaments that we made before about trying to do this more often, I guess, will be a lot more helpful. And Scott, thank you for seconding Wade. Lindsay's also asked for some of the harder questions.
So Lindsay, why don't we? We haven't spoken yet. I've gotten your email, but why don't we set up a one-on-one, and I'd be happy to kind of walk through a bit more with you.
Awesome.
I'm afraid to do that with 150 people on this call, but we'll start with Lindsay.
Fantastic. So I think what we'll be able to do after this, like I mentioned before, it has been recorded, so we'll be able to share the presentation. I might put you on the spot, Bruce. I don't know if we're able to share your PowerPoint as well. I'm not sure if that would be possible.
Yeah, there's a couple slides that I can't share, but most of it I can. So I'll send across the deck that can be shared.
Yeah, fantastic. Likewise with Alex's. And so we'll share this in an email so you have all the information. There are a couple more questions coming in. Collaborator access without having a Matterport account. Is it possible to have a collaborator without having a Matterport account? Bruce, I'll let you take that.
Not currently. I have seen, again, through the SDK, I have seen folks surface some of the functionality that you need the collaborator access for, but doing it then through the SDK. So quick answer is not currently, but more to follow as things get enhanced through the SDK and the API.
Yeah, awesome. There's an interesting tech question here. I reckon this is, well, let's see if you can get to this, but I reckon this is probably better for the hardware team, around LED lights on properties and how it's being captured within the scan itself. Do you have much on that? I'm throwing you under the bus here.
No.
Yeah.
I don't have anything to add to that. But Vincent, I will make a note of that, and if I've got anything that comes back that's that adds to your question, I'll share it with Stephen, and we can get it out to everybody on the webinar, I guess.
Yeah, fantastic. I know it's really difficult. So the technology and the way that Matterport presented is very user-friendly, but in the background and in the crux of what they're actually doing, it's quite technical. And with the mix of photogrammetry and infrared lasers, when capturing a space, a lot of you may have experienced it in heat lamps in bathrooms, just creating black spots within it. It's nuances in the technology, and the infrared lasers just not coming back in the same way that you'd want to capture it. I've spent a lot of time in forums and some interesting ideas around putting things like almost like sunglasses on the camera, but obviously that wouldn't work because it would actually block infrared lasers from coming out in the first place. But
right.
It's a known thing, and it's quite technically difficult to actually solve that problem using the technology that's at hand. So
right.
Interesting question. Well, thank you very much again, Bruce. Just as a quick recap, we'll have everything up and we'll send through an email around what it is that we've provided here today, Bruce's and Alex's presentation, and of course this Q&A. By the sounds of it, it's been a lot of interest, and we'll probably be able to do it again. There is a couple of anonymous questions coming in here around the delivery times. We did answer the service and the delivery times around the fact that things are pretty busy. And is that, I guess, into the Pro 2 delivery times? I'm glad you asked, anonymous attendee. As of today, we officially have stock on hand. So about an hour ago, UPS dropped off our most recent camera batch, and whilst the last 3 months have been a bit of a scramble to keep up with a lot of the orders, and appreciate anyone there recently purchased a camera and did have to wait a week or two to get it. We now have cameras on hand. So if purchases are made before the end of financial year with our financial discount, we'll be able to ship cameras today or tomorrow, and you'll get them within the next couple of days. Obviously, there is limited stock, so get in while they do last on that one there. Did you have any updates on the production side of things, Bruce, with that question?
Yeah, so I think first off, I want to fall on the sword because it's not Fourier captured that was causing the delay. We had, again, due to the overwhelming, unpredicted growth and demand for Pro 2s, and on top of that, obviously, we had a limited number of people. At first, we couldn't have anybody in the factory, and then we had a limited number. But again, not to make excuses, but I want to say that the issue was on our side, not with captured. In terms of getting those cameras out. At one point, we had an 8-week delay in terms of processing new orders, or a backlog of 8 weeks. We're certainly working through that. We're actually now at I think we're close to a 24/6, running 2 shifts. We've expanded the floor in our factory because demand has not slowed down. So we should now be able to deliver in a much more timely manner for everybody. So yeah, we're excited about being able to offer that, and do apologize for the delays that some of you had to deal with. I see that, there was a question. I know that there's been some questions about the recent release of the CAPTUR 4.0.2 or I think that's when we're on now. And I know it did cause some, while it fixed some things, it undid some other elements to it. And I know there's been some issues around that. I know some folks have access to, or have gone back to the 3.x version. And I know there was an outstanding question that came through about, will that still be available after the 35 days or whatever it was that I think the product team mentioned. I don't have an update on if it's going to get extended to be out there longer, but what I do have is that there is a new release of CAPTUR that's addressing many, or actually from our head of VP of product is addressing most of the known issues that I think it's been pushed to Apple. And so we're waiting for it to get published into iTunes. So sometime by the end of the week, there should be a new version out. There are still, and I'm just in the spirit of transparency, there are still some known issues that are in development, and it's particularly around the very large scans and for devices that have lower amount of RAM. So in those situations, we still have a known issue that we're working through. I don't have an update on when that element of the fix is going to be there. But I think that's, I know it's, for those that fits, it's a very painful point. I know that's not the majority, but it is, we're aware of it and we're working through that. So I think the other thing, Stephen, is I'll just get an update from product about if the 3. version is still going to be available post those 35 days. Mm-hmm. And certainly keep an eye on the App Store. There's going to be new releases being pushed out this week. And again, I think another one next week as well.
Yeah, fantastic. If you've been with Matterport for a while, with these updates and things like that, just be cautious, I guess, but always be careful. I know here's some horrible results where someone's updating on site while they're doing a scan. Always just do it when you're at home just to be safe and things like that. But they're always really quick to fix and provide these updates as well. Nothing's ever perfect, especially with software development, but it's the rate to be able to respond, and there are fixes on their way. So it's really good to see. We might just fill one last question here, just for my clarity as well on this. And you did mention it, but I guess the MSP program, it's paused for now. Is that how it's working?
So it's active in the sense that you can still go and people can do Find a Pro or Find a 3D Pro, I think it's called, on the website, and request it. And we're still connecting those customers, those requests to the existing network. What we're not doing at this stage is adding any new members into that MSP database. Again, I think this is an important one that we keep on the agenda. So for our next update, I will be better equipped. Again, it's been lower on my priority list in terms of how we're expanding into APAC. But given all of the questions that have come in, let's make sure that this is an agenda item that we cover off in subsequent webinars.
Fantastic. As we've just past 6:30, we'll probably put a pin in it, and it sounds like we will be running another webinar. And if we do these more currently, then we can have a bit more of a theme. And so by the sounds of it, the next one might be around the MSP programs and things like that. But you've all got our email. I'll send you through your comments and let us know what it is that you would like to discuss. At the end of the day, this is a forum for you guys to get the most out of Matterport and the ecosystem. And potentially we can bring some of you guys onto the discussion and panel list next time to discuss about your journeys and your stories as well. Again, we'll follow up with an email with all this information on it. Just lastly, I'd like to thank all of our panelists here today. Bruce, Amy, Alex, Wade, and Dean sitting there in the corner as well. I really appreciate all of your time, and thank you very much. Was there any last words from anyone before we sign off?
Okay. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Not a problem at all. Thank you all again, and speak to you all soon. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.